I am going to speak both in English and in Spanish. So hopefully you are going to learn a few words in Spanish, but don't worry, the subtitles will help you.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. Aloha and welcome to our first featured presentation with Violeta Molina Natera. The presentation title is, Are they really writing centers entering to a community as outsiders to transform? And we're going to begin today's presentation with Charlene Sarmiento, who's going to be introducing Violeta. Unfortunately, Charlene can't be with us at right now. So I'm going to present her introduction through share screen, and it's previously recorded. But just to introduce Charlene, she's an assistant professor at Occidental College, and she is the assistant director of the Writing Center. So without much further ado, I'm going to share screen, and we'll get Charlene up here.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlene Sarmiento, and I'm the assistant director at Occidental College's Writing Center. I had the pleasure to meet Dr. Violeta Molina Natera in 2016 when we presented at a panel at the conference on college composition and communication in Houston, Texas. The conference theme was Writing Strategies for Action. At this conference, I was able to learn about Molina Natera's ethnographic study, focusing on a software engineering professor in Colombia who participated in a faculty development program designed to foster the incorporation of writing assignments and rubrics. This study illustrated a powerful example of Molina Natera's work that engages with developing pedagogical interventions that benefit students and faculty across disciplines. At this conference, I also had the great opportunity to learn more about her work as the founder and director of the Javeriano Writing Center at Pontificia Universidad Javeriana Cali in Colombia. Fast forward to 2021, I have the deepest pleasure to introduce Dr. Molina Natera as one of our featured speakers at this year's IWCA conference. Dr. Molina Natera earned her PhD in education, an MA in linguistics and Spanish, and is a speech therapist. She's an associate professor and founder and director of the Javeriana Writing Center in Cali, Colombia. Molina Natera is also a member of the Communication and Language Research Group, founder and former president of the Latin American Network of Writing Centers and Programs, RLCPE, and a board member of the International Writing Center Association representing Latin America, the Latin American Association of Writing Studies in Higher Education and Professional Contexts, ALES, and the Transnational Writing Research Consortium. She's the editor for Text in Spanish for the Latin American section of International Exchanges on the study of the writing of WAC Clearinghouse. In this year's CFP, Together Again Apart, from Reimagining Our Communities of Practice, Dr. Sherry Wynn Perdue and Dr. Georgianne Nordstrom noted the challenges over this last year due to the ongoing global pandemic, the continuing attack on democracy, and the ongoing violence against communities of color. They write, quote, "We have witnessed individuals and groups across our membership representing centers from South and North America, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, respond to these challenges in responsible and ethical ways to support all writers who visit our centers and all people who work in them. While many of these efforts are grounded in the ways of knowing and being tied to our Writing Center community of practice, they also reflect unique perspectives derived from overlapping allegiances to local communities of practice, a reality that enriches and complicates our own work in unanticipated ways," end quote. Today, I look forward to Dr. Molina Natera's talk that speaks to these unique perspectives derived from our Writing Center community of practice, and then also overlap with the local realities of her Writing Center at the Javeriano Writing Center. Without further ado, I welcome Dr. Molina Natera as she gives her featured talk. Are they really writing centers? Entering a community as outsiders to transform it. Welcome, Dr. Molina Natera, and thank you for letting me introduce you today, and I'm really looking forward to your talk.
So, Violeta, I now turn it over to you.
Okay. Un saludo muy especial para todos desde el país de Gabriel García Márquez, la mayor variedad de aves y el mejor café del mundo, Colombia. Do not worry, you're not at the wrong conference because you are seeing a person who speaks differently and who looks different. Las organizadoras del Congreso, Sherry, presidente de IWCA, y la incansable Georgianne, este año quisieron invitarnos a abrir nuestras fronteras y a reimaginar nuestras comunidades de práctica como comunidades internacionales en las que podamos cooperar mutuamente. Es la primera vez hasta donde sé que en el Congreso de la Asociación Internacional de Centros de Escritura invitan como conferencista central a una persona que no sea de Estados Unidos. I have the honor, which not even in a wildest dream imagined, to address a community that grows more each year with the diversity of writing centers around the world. So no pressure. I really want to thank to IWCA for this invitation, who capitalized the first name of our association for improve our community. Durante esta presentación quiero referirme a tres aspectos principalmente. First, I would like to share the development that the Latin American community of Writing Center has had. Revealing to you a bit of what my journey as a director has been, I will show you how I made my way and gaining respect from this academic community. This is also the case with writing centers in Latin America and, as you know, in the rest of the world. En un segundo momento voy a compartirles algunos resultados de investigación que presentan un panorama de los centros y programas de escritura de nuestra región. Me gustaría que se vayan de esta conferencia con una idea más cercana de nuestras identidades y nuestros rasgos particulares. I want to end with a proposal for the internationalization of writing centers by presenting a model that I hope invites us to recognize and embrace our diversity as our greatest treasure. I believe that being able to meet virtually from so many places in the world is the best way to see that it's possible to connect more as a community. Comencemos con el principio. Siempre he tenido la tendencia de moverme de mi zona de confort para buscar cosas diferentes. Mis estudios universitarios los hice en una ciudad al otro lado de mi país, lejos de mi familia, buscando conectarme con lo que quería para mi vida. During my master's degree, I challenged myself to study Colombian Sign Language to understand the characteristics of speech in the classroom and to help hearing teachers to communicate better with the deaf students. Then I came to what has been my passion. I don't think it was by accident, but because it was my destiny. Cuando me presenté para una convocatoria de profesores aquí en la Universidad Javeriana, no sabía que estaban buscando a alguien que asumiera la tarea de crear un programa que ayudara a mejorar las prácticas de escritura. I remember that when I finished the interview, without thinking about it, I went back to the office and said to my future boss, you know what? I really like to do what you want. I could have stayed at the first semester Spanish teacher, but I was looking forward to something that could challenge me to the unknown. 15 años atrás, la persona que encendió el fuego de los centros de escritura fue la argentina Paula Carlino, quien investigó qué se hacía en algunas universidades de Estados Unidos, Canadá y Australia para abordar la lectura y la escritura. Gracias a sus publicaciones tuvimos noticias de otras prácticas distintas a los cursos tradicionales de primer semestre. That was my only reference when I took on the task of creating something that did not exist in my country. Through endless hours of searching the web, I discovered what many universities were doing in the United States. My curiosity increases as I had to consolidate a project grounded in the reality of my institution. What would a writing center in a private university in Cali, Colombia looks like? I wish I had a neighbor who had already done it to ask him, how did you do it? The first section that we made that followed the tutoring mouse in charge with the undergraduate students. Venía el reto de cómo encontrar a los estudiantes a que asumieran ese desafío sin saber de qué se trataba y que además lo hicieran de tal forma que garantizara el respaldo institucional y la sostenibilidad del centro. Acudimos a los profesores para que nos recomendaran estudiantes que se destacaran por sus habilidades de escritura y de trabajo con los compañeros. Thanks to the support of my university by allowing the creation of a one-semester course for tutor training, with that first group, we start the first training course. This course is like a reality show in which there are a series of tests that allow defining that will be the ones that hire as tutor, because the good one arise, but the best of the best remain. That's why the team is always the dream team. En los congresos sobre lectura y escritura en la universidad tuve la fortuna de conocer a las dos directoras que fueron las pioneras en Latinoamérica. Hilda Quintana, de la Universidad Interamericana de Puerto Rico, quien empezó en 1994 el primer centro de escritura latinoamericano, y Lily Orsmi, quien después creó el CARLE en el ITAM de Puerto Rico. I discovered that writing centers are a community when we feel so identified with the people that we know, with those people that I did not know, but who became my older sisters. I realized that I was not as alone as I thought, and that further prompted me to continue working on the positioning of my writing center. Con motivo de los 5 años del Centro de Escritura, en 2013 se me ocurrió convocar a todos los centros de Colombia y Latinoamérica a quienes llegara mi invitación. No tenía presupuesto ni sabía cómo llegar a los programas latinoamericanos, pero la respuesta fue abrumadora. Y aparecieron directores pidiendo más información porque estaban interesados en asistir. The first conference was held here at this university with a modality to face-to-face or virtual assistant, and that we still do not have a pandemic. People from Puerto Rico, Uruguay, Chile, Mexico, Argentina, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, and of course, Colombia attended. Our main speaker was Linda Adler-Kastner, who joined virtually from the University of Santa Barbara in California and very generously shared her reflection with the directors or coordinator. In that conference, we all learned that in Latin America, the difference between writing centers and writing programs does not occur in the same way as in the United States, and that a writing program can have aspects like those of a writing center. For example, teachers tutoring, but they also follow strategies that writing across the curriculum, which they accompany disciplinary courses. De ese congreso también surgió la inevitable necesidad de asociarnos y nace la idea de lo que se concibió como la Red Latinoamericana de Centros y Programas de Escritura, porque necesitábamos un espacio donde confluyéramos todos. Es debido a la delgada línea que separa los centros de los programas que el nombre de nuestra red, de nuestra asociación, los incluye a ambos. Being the first president of this association was a wonderful challenge for me. Meeting colleagues from other nations with such valuable experience, want to contribute, but also wanting to learn, and being able to show some seed has been one of the best lessons that I have ever learned. Nuestra red latinoamericana ha servido para conocernos y reconocernos en nuestra diversidad de prácticas, lugares, modos y personas. Considero que hemos generado una comunidad internacional en la que a través de nuestros congresos, entre otros, hay un espacio para construir una identidad latinoamericana que poco a poco se va consolidando. Later, we continue to meet biannually, given the difficulty of traveling each year to a different country. Our second conference was also in Colombia, this time in Bogotá, then in Chile, and then in México. Como todos ustedes, la pandemia nos obligó a quedarnos sin congresos por un tiempo, pero confiamos en que nos volveremos a ver muy pronto. Al igual que las demás asociaciones regionales, la virtualidad trajo formas de acercarnos y también se han generado nuevas posibilidades de comunicación y difusión de nuestro trabajo. Quisiera ahora mostrar algunos resultados de una investigación que realicé entre 2014 y 2018 para entender mejor qué estaba pasando con el fenómeno de los centros de escritura en Latinoamérica. Para poder abordar este objeto de estudio, lo dividí en 3 ejes de investigación: las teorías que lo fundamentan, las prácticas que llevan a cabo y la administración adelantada por sus directores. This study was based on a very long survey inspired with the Writing Center Research Project and the National Census of Writing, with adaptations to answer the research question. 3 case studies were also conducted, one in a writing center in Puerto Rico, another writing program in Argentina, and another with a writing program that include a writing center here in Colombia. A nivel de teorías, la mayor parte de la fundamentación proviene de estudios sobre escritura y solo un 20% se basa en literatura sobre centros y programas de escritura. Esto señala que se asume que los textos sobre lectura y escritura en español son, en consecuencia, sobre centros de escritura. It can also be deduced that from this result that access to books on Writing Center is not easy for people from other countries, and that many of the directors of Writing Center do not read in English, the language in which most of those texts are written. De igual forma, hay que tener en cuenta que los directores de centros de escritura provienen de una diversidad de formación. A pesar de esta variedad, se puede decir que los estudios de escritura en Latinoamérica se han fundamentado en gran parte en aportes de la lingüística y la educación. These contributions have allowed a solid field of study to be consolidated in the region, although it could not be called a discipline, it is well represented in what Halliday calls educational linguistics. Educational linguistics is not a branch of linguistics or a type of linguistics, nor is it a disciplinary concept, but rather a thematic perspective. Thus, each writing center will be in one of the points of this continuum with the pedagogy of writing center. Ahora bien, las prácticas hablan del rasgo de flexibilidad en la noción de centros y programas de escritura en nuestra región. La diferenciación no sigue el esquema norteamericano que un programa de escritura se ocupa de los cursos y un centro de escritura se ocupa de las tutorías. A writing center typically not only provides peer tutoring, but also classroom workshops, faculty professional development, and have first-year courses faculty also tutoring. There is a case of a very important university that eliminated the first-year courses to replace with tutoring, and faculty became tutors. It is or is not really writing center. Who has the last word? Can we make that decision together? Hay una tendencia en Latinoamérica a crear centros de escritura en las universidades. ¿Cuáles son las razones para esta tendencia? En primer lugar, la divulgación del trabajo que están haciendo algunos centros de escritura a través de publicaciones académicas. On the other hand, the consolidation of a Latin American association with a biannual conference and a free newsletter with a wide circulation. Another reason is that peer tutoring represents a lower cost than faculty job, and in some cases, they are even not paid. Lo interesante es que a través del conocimiento de las prácticas realizadas por otros centros de escritura como comunidad se validan y se refuerzan. Esto, como muchos autores lo han manifestado, nos invita a investigar nuestras prácticas y publicar con un enfoque que supere las narrativas para seguir fortaleciendo nuestra identidad. The last aspect that I studied in writing centers was writing program administration. I was very interested in knowing and understanding the role of the director, who without having experience of training for this position, assumed it with the intention of participatory leadership. Probably the lack of training and experience makes a good number of them decide to be in that position for a short time, which is why I found in the most years. En algunos casos esto se debía a que los programas estaban recientemente creados. Actividades como selección y administración de personal, manejo de presupuesto, planeación y mercadeo de actividades, publicidad del programa, asistir a comités de otros departamentos, entre otras, muchas veces superan la capacidad de un director al no estar preparado para hacer eso por primera vez. In this regard, we need to be more rigorous in administrative matters, such as reporting or designing of systematic evaluation of writing centers or writing program. Even so, many directors have become agents of change in the universities when they define a mission that permeates the other instance and is aligned with the institutional mission. El tipo de trabajo que llevan a cabo, clasificado como tareas cotidianas e intelectuales por Geller y Denny, y luego como tareas cotidianas, disciplinares y emocionales por Caswell, McKinney y Jackson, evidencia que en cualquier lugar del mundo el rol del director de un centro de escritura permite configurar una identidad disciplinar. If writing center directors agree on something, isn't persistent and passion, which often it becomes in our institution. As Danny explained, as others ask the groups to attend, as Danny explained, the others of us are the groups that go against the grain and that mobilize in networks of mutual recognition and support, such as IWCA and regional associations. A partir de los resultados que les acabo de compartir, ahora quiero referirme a los 5 rasgos de identidad latinoamericana que los centros de escritura que yo considero más importantes. El primer rasgo es que somos una organización internacional con presencia hasta ahora en 8 países y con una diversidad cultural que caracteriza el trabajo de los centros de escritura de cada país. In Latin America, there is a deep difference between public and private universities. 72% of university and writing centers are private because in public one, it is administratively very complex to obtain funds and support for this type of project. Of course, there are public universities doing extraordinary jobs despite all this. The second feature is that being Latino is being a family. Mi casa es tu casa. That is why our centers and programs, although they retain their interest in helping others to get what they want, maybe they do with greater closeness, empathy, and affection. This has also served to strengthen us as a network because although we come from different countries, we feel close and willing to support each other. El tercer rasgo que a mi juicio nos consolida como una comunidad académica es la base conceptual que tiene la enseñanza de la lectura y la escritura en la educación superior en Latinoamérica. Sometime at the 4Cs, someone at a round table told me, you can teach reading and writing well because you don't have rhetoric and composition. Many people in the United States may think that our teaching of writing in university is weak or at least incomprehensible if it has a theoretical foundation other than rhetoric and composition. Pues bien, Latinoamérica, los estudios de la escritura se han conformado por una tradición heterogénea en la que confluyen los estudios del discurso, la gramática sistémico-funcional, la lingüística textual, la alfabetización académica y la literacidad crítica. De todas esas ramas de estudio tenemos investigadores que han aportado y han logrado un impacto que va más allá de nuestra región Latinoamérica. There is a fourth factor that contributes to having such a root identity as a writing center. In almost all cases, our tutoring is in Spanish, since the teaching of our universities is in our language. Las tutorías en otra lengua se consideran una excepción, como es el caso de Puerto Rico, que es un estado bilingüe, o cuando un estudiante requiere escritura de un texto en otra lengua y cuenta con el tutor bilingüe que puede acompañar su proceso. Se da una excepción en Brasil, donde en algunos centros de escritura las tutorías en inglés han sido fomentadas a través de programas que cuentan con presupuestos de las embajadas de Estados Unidos, como una política colonialista de expansión del idioma. Finally, our countries face very great social and economic difficulties, which have consequences for education at all levels. Investment in education are not what we would like, and this makes work of teachers and educational institutions very difficult. La gente hace lo mejor que puede con los recursos que tiene, y a veces eso se convierte en oportunidad, como cuando utilizan la pedagogía de los centros de escritura para formar ciudadanos que aportan a la solución de los problemas de sus países. Despite the above, not necessarily in Latin America, there is discourse of social justice in the framework of writing studies. However, the work that is proposed in these writing centers has to do with reducing social gaps and the democratization of knowledge. Creo que para nosotros es un tema implícito porque hemos vivido en medio de la injusticia y la exclusión. No es que nos hemos acostumbrado a eso, nos hemos acostumbrado a enseñar para hacer sociedades más justas e incluyentes. I would like to end my presentation by sharing with you a model of the colonization of Writing Center as an invitation to international cooperation. This is a model that I have been developing from the work of the Portuguese sociologist Boaventura de Sousa Santos, especially on Southern epistemologies and his theory of abysmal thinking. Desde el sur global, los centros de escritura pueden verse como una idea colonial que está irrumpiendo desde los Estados Unidos para imponer una tendencia hegemónica e imperialista. In the case of Latin America, the notion comes, as I mentioned before, through research on ways of appropriate reading and writing in the North America context. It is undeniable the consolidation of writing center in the United States have broken paradigms that have formed a very solid academic community. Según de Sousa, el pensamiento occidental moderno es un pensamiento abismal, pues la realidad está dividida en dos universos, el que está a este lado de la línea y el que está al otro lado, que por esa condición se convierte en algo no existente. Para el caso de los centros de escritura, probablemente la línea marque que la separación que hay entre cada región hace que se desconozca lo que está al otro lado del abismo. However, as we have seen in recent years, issues from the Global South have begun to interest large associations, the large academic association like IWCA. This implies for our countries the possibility of conceiving studies on writing centers from this side to propose other ways of producing knowledge. El desarrollo de los centros de escritura, como sabemos, comenzó en Estados Unidos con desarrollos independientes en las universidades que luego fueron integrándose hasta crear agrupaciones regionales y más tarde en 1983 se creó la National Writing Center Association. This association had its expansion and development through status, publication, conference, and awards. In 1998, the European Association of Writing Center was created, and in 1999, the National Writing Center Association became international. In 2007, the Africa Association was created, and in 2014, the Latin American Network of Writing Centers and Programs appeared. Esta abreviada historia muestra una lógica expansiva en los centros de escritura, no necesariamente intencionada, pero sí inevitable, que llevó a la creación de asociaciones regionales, primero en Estados Unidos y luego en otras partes del mundo. Ahora, la también inevitable lógica expansiva en los centros de escritura de cada región lleva a la creación de las asociaciones regionales. It is an expansion that is neither predictable nor generalizable, since writing centers of distant universities and without contact between them begin to spread. This growth is represented on the graph by the dotted lines. Este proceso de expansión constituye un orden colonial que se irradia a otras regiones del mundo, bien sea porque se generan programas financiados por las embajadas de Estados Unidos para la enseñanza del inglés en universidades extranjeras o porque se incorpora un modelo exitoso. The first will be a colonizing order, or the second a colonial order, according to de Sousa, because the scientific and academic thinking of the Writing Center has spread to the other region of the world. This colonial order is represented by the largest circle that reach the other regions. We want to reach what de Sousa called ecology of knowledge, which implies the contact of regional association of the world in a framework of cooperation and mutual development. The expansion and mutual development that derives from this exchange must lead to a decolonized order in which we know how to coexist in the ecology of knowledge, but each producing and contributing in our own knowledge derived of our practice. Mi propuesta entonces consiste en investigaciones internacionales para el desarrollo de centros de escritura que cuestionen los diferentes contextos que constituyen la ecología de saberes. El punto de partida sería indagar cómo se construyeron en Estados Unidos las ideas de centro de escritura y de tutoría individual, que buscaban el desarrollo de habilidades de escritura. De igual forma, ¿cuáles fueron los aportes que llevaron a que el concepto se fortaleciera y se nutriera de diversas disciplinas? A first moment to investigate would be the current one, in which writing centers are emerging in the regions of the world under the influence of other expansive processes of North American origin with this theoretical and practical heritage. What are the interests that motivate its emergence? How is the contact between the two worlds? What influence is there from one context to the other? El segundo momento sería el de la consolidación de las asociaciones regionales. ¿Qué significa el trabajo en red o asociación en los centros de escritura de las distintas regiones del mundo? ¿Hasta dónde el trabajo colaborativo entre los centros de escritura nutre su desarrollo? ¿Qué tanto se pueden desarrollar los centros de escritura en las regiones del mundo sin una temporalidad simultánea respecto al pensamiento norteamericano? ¿Cómo funciona la ecología de saberes en el sistema de centros de escritura en esas regiones? ¿Existe un sistema de centros de escritura con conexiones colaborativas entre ellos? The third moment would be that of the colonized order in which regional writing centers establish their own identity and their own agenda. What would imply an order in which the production of knowledge about writing center was like its consumption? What components will the practice have to consolidate a sense of its own? What will be the theoretical substrate that founded practice and where will it come from? How much will be willing and able to contribute to the international system of writing centers? La posición marginal que ocupamos los países del sur global puede ser una ventaja, pues podemos aprovechar los aprendizajes de quienes ya han hecho el recorrido por la evolución de los centros de escritura. De esta forma, estos tres momentos que acabo de proponer muestran una oportunidad de trazar una ruta con unos objetivos claros en los que mientras se desarrolla un proceso de investigación propia, se incorporan las experiencias y teorías que ya existen. This proposal does not mean that, that everything is wrong and needs to be changed. On the contrary, what writing centers in the United States have done is so good that also transformed the way of teaching and learning writing for people in the world. But by reaching people from so many different regions, the model is naturally transformed and enriched. Mi propuesta es una invitación a conocer y reconocer el valioso trabajo que hacen los centros de escritura de otras regiones del mundo y a permitirnos ser transformados con la riqueza que sus prácticas nos pueden brindar. That is why we are not your they, we are not the others, we are unity, we are together. Muchas gracias por escucharme.
Muchas gracias, Violeta. That was beautiful. Thank you very, very much. I sincerely apologize for the rough start, but I'm positive that that is not what people are going to remember. Thank you for that rich accounting of the history and everything. That was so wonderful. Violeta wanted to open it up to some questions. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we will convey them. Yeah, Keith Kirkwood says, let's do it. We're on board.
Yes, we have time.
So one of the first comments, thank you. So good to learn from you and to think about a new future for all writing centers. I have a quick question to get us started. Violeta, what do you think about how does the role of publication? I mean, you talked a little bit about that, but how does the role of publication and do you have thoughts about how we can internationalize what we publish? I'm really interested in trying to move away from only publishing in English, for example.
Mm-hmm. There are some possibilities, I think. As you heard maybe, or have you read in my bio, now I am the editor for What Clearing House. And there is a book that is coming, which is a book that translates the articles in Spanish, the most cited articles about writing studies. And this book is going to translate in English those articles of writing studies in Latin America. So this is a step that we are taking from this side. But also there are some interesting articles that are written in Spanish about writing centers. I remember even the last month an interesting article comparing face-to-face tutorings and virtual tutorings have come, written by people from Spain and from Chile. It's written in Spanish. The invitation is, why don't you try to read a little bit in Spanish? You can use Google Translator and maybe you can take some advantage. I think there are interesting articles. All of them have abstract written in English. But also I would love to some projects of articles written by people from the United States or from Europe or from North Africa, with Latin American people can start, or maybe book projects written in 2 or why not 3 languages.
Right.
I think we can do it. This is the 21st century, and we are I think people in the world are reading at least in 2 different languages. So I think this could be an interesting possibility if we are willing to open our minds and to share our knowledge in different languages.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a lot of comments. I'm going to read them out. Thank you. So good to learn from you and to think about a new future for all the writing centers. Lucy, I'm not going to do the Spanish because I'm afraid, so I'm going to just translate it. Thank you very much for your presentation, and you gave me great inspiration. Gracias, that was a great presentation, and I agree that the future lies from learning from each other and sharing the insights on real peer-to-peer level. Okay, and then here's a question. Brilliant and generous, please speak more to the theoretical framework of the theme of family in the writing centers of the Global South.
Okay. As I mentioned, in Latin America, people has developed a sense of empathy, a sense of be part of the other's issues. And this is why I mentioned this idea, as you know, as mi casa, tu casa, because we share with people, and this is how I think this is the feeling that our association, our Latin American association has, because as I mentioned, we are an international association, and even if we are not from the same country, when we are together in our conference, is a beautiful sense of community. I can mention at this moment authors that are in Spanish. There are no authors talking or developing this idea of this framework of family in the writing centers in the Global South. As I know, there is no written in Spanish in that point, but this could be an interesting theme from our research in our writing center.
Thank you. Okay, there's another one from, that question, by the way, was from Tracy, I believe. And Kathleen Shine Kane is asking, can you speak a bit more about the differences between writing centers in Asian and African countries run by U.S. universities and writing centers developed within local universities?
I really don't know the writing centers, how are they working in Asia and in South Africa or in the north of Africa. I know that in the north of Africa, even in South Africa, and I heard about China and Japan, many of these universities are universities who teach in English. So the Writing Center has the mission to teach them how to write well in English.
Yes.
The main difference with us is that in our universities, this is mainly our teaching is in Spanish, in our language. So for me, this is the biggest difference. There are some political issues about those writing centers that are financed, but that have budgets from U.S. embassies, for example, because there are a political interest of expansion of the language. And I mentioned as those are the colonialist order when they are paid by U.S. embassies to spread the language. I think this is a big difference. I really don't know about the work that they are doing. I have some interchanges with people from the Saudi Arabia and from South Africa, and that's why I know that they are mostly universities that teach in English, and writing centers are specialized to help writers to write in English.
Yeah. Okay, the next question is from Charlene, but Charlene, you have speaking capabilities, so I'm so glad you're able to join us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Violeta. Good to see you and to hear your presentation. I had a question about, you talk a little bit about Susa Santos's work, and I was curious if you could speak more on like tutor training or professional development for tutors that tries to aim for democratization of knowledge. I'm having trouble with speaking today, but yeah, just this idea of just I'm wondering what that looks like in the context of your writing center. Like what kind of tutor training that that you offer to either students or faculty.
In my writing center, we have a 1 semester course as a tutor training. This is a 2-credit course that tutors take before they, and this is the natural selection process. They are in this course for an entire semester, and this is like I mentioned, a lot of tests during the whole semester, and at the end of the semester we select which one of them are going to be hired as a writing tutors. And in about the democratization of knowledge, we have different strategies, as I know. We work with some readings. Something that I really like to do is to invite different authors. For example, I told you that last month an article comparing face-to-face tutorings and virtual tutorings have emerged, and last week I invite those authors from Spain and from Chile. And this kind of interchange, I think that they nurture the tutor training process. And also we speak in different ways of how by improving writing skills, they are developing as our citizens that can contribute to our country, to the social issues that we have in our country. As you know, in Colombia, we had a critical social situation this year, and even our tutors here in my university, they was shocked. They were not able to work. So this kind of situation is something that we discuss in our center. Sometimes I propose to them to write and to analyze in a very structured way those social issues. I can hear you, Yerjan.
I know. Sorry about that. There are so many comments. We're probably not going to get to them all, so I'm going to copy them at the end of the presentation. But this next question is from Germain Sandoval. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Are you offering support to write in L1 and L2? And are there other languages you are also supporting? What about language minority groups, or is it more just about L1 and L2?
As I mentioned, in Latin America, tutoring are mostly in Spanish. It's an exception if we have tutoring in English, for example. That's just the case of Puerto Rico, because as you know, it's a bilingual state. But even as I know, in Brazil, there are a few writing centers, but they are more devoted to teach L2, but not L1. But those cases I mentioned as some exceptions, you know, because in Latin America, we do tutoring in Spanish all the time. I know some cases, but this is also an exception, and an interesting exception. In the north of Chile, there are la Universidad de Tarapacá, and in that writing center, they live close to an indigenous culture, and they do code switching, as I know. When I speak, when I talk with this writing center director, he told me that in some cases they do a code switching, as in the United States tutors do some cases. And in Mexico, I heard something, because there are a lot of indigenous population at universities, but I'm not sure if they do code switchings during the tutorings. So mostly our tutoring sessions are in Spanish. So we really don't have those discussions about L2 and L2. The discussion interesting will be about the language of minority groups. I think this is the things that we have, because our academic language, I think, is very conservative. I think our academic language follow the rules, and as I know, for us will be unthinkable to think something like code meshing. I think this could be unbelievable, and I don't know how many people could die if a student write something like in a code meshing. I think this is an interesting thing that writing centers could at least, I don't know, writing centers could lead this discussion that academic writing do not have to be like 50 years ago, you know. And for some people, for example, it's unthinkable to include links in the academic papers and things like that. Like even if the paper is not printed, they don't even conceive things like that are not really I don't know too much, but mostly our academic writing is really conservative.
Here, here. Here, here. I would love to see something in code meshing. Ashley, I think this was just addressed, but I'll go ahead. Ashley's asking specifically about institutions that cater to Spanish and Portuguese speakers.
With other organizations or initiatives such as ALES.
Yeah.
The ALES that cater to both Spanish speakers and Portuguese speakers. Actually, I am in the board of ALES. ALES is, I have to say first in Spanish and then in English, sorry. Asociación Latinoamericana de Estudios de la Escritura en la Educación Superior y Contextos Profesionales. So Latin American Association of Writing Studies in Higher Education and Professional Context. That means ALES. And I am also in the board. It's really interesting what ALES is doing because they are, I think they are breaking paradigms in the conference. For example, in ALES conference, which will be next month, virtual too, conference are welcome in Spanish, in English, or in Portuguese. And you can share a session with people from Brazil, with people from the US, and things like that. Also, the first time that I observed a presentation bilingual was in an ALES conference. I hope this one at least could be understood. But I think that we have to increase our multilingual conception. That's why I try to do this exercise of doing this bilingual presentation. But ALES has many initiatives. For example, it's the first time that we have a book award in Latin America, and this year will be the first book award. It's going to be biannual because conferences in Latin America are really expensive because all of them are internationals, and you can afford, or your university can't afford an international travel every year. And that's what ALES, I think this is one of the main contributions of ALES. Also spreading knowledge or defending our idea of our Latin American writing studies. As I mentioned, we don't have rhetorical composition, but we have Latin American writing studies, and ALES right now is the organization, is the association that is pushing our writing studies in Latin America.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. And like I said, there's a ton of comments, so we'll copy them and we will get them to you. I thank you everybody for the high interactivity here. Keith Kirkwood is saying, I really appreciate the thoughts of sociologist Buenaventura de Sousa on the Global South, especially how the hegemonic epistemology of the North has run out of ideas and needs new epistemologies to solve the problems of the world. I am interested in how we can develop the concept of intercultural rhetoric as one mode for learning and appreciating different ways of writing for an audience.
Thank you. That's a great question. I am also interested, and I think in this idea of how we can become a more international organization, as we are seeing today, we can move forward in that way. I just mentioned a proposal of a research different research projects in 3 different moments, but I think that we can go in that way. Definitely, this epistemology of the North is taking the view to the global South, and my proposal or my intention with this talk, with this presentation, was to invite us to open up as a global community, to invite us to be more collaborative by hearing, by knowing what the others are doing, but also being willing to learn from each other. So that was my main intention with this presentation, and with the model that I am developing, and all your recommendations, or everything that you can send me. You can email me. Lina, escribe porfa en la dirección de correo. You can email me, and I can keep in the talking about this model, because I think that this could be a great contribution that we can do as an international or global community.
Mahalo nui loa, Violeta. Muchas gracias. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for attending. I hope everyone continues to have a wonderful conference. And to almost conclude the first day, we have a couple more presentations tonight, but thank you. As an organizer of this conference, I couldn't have been more happy with this presentation. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias a todos. Thank you very much.
There's 28 more messages.
I promise I'm going to read all of them. Yes, I promise. I'm really interested.
Thank you, everyone. Sherry, can you copy that?